Pack your bags, grab your passport. We're headed to South Africa.
Welcome to Travel Tuesday with Teresa, the ultimate source of wanderlust inspiration. Join the journey led by your host, Teresa Belcher, founder of Honeymoon Islands.
My guest today is Justin Barnett, the head of marketing and communications for South Africa Tourist Board, based in New York City. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Hi, Teresa. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you spending your day and your time doing this. I cannot wait to hear all about South Africa. So it's over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. How's it, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are today. A very warm South African greeting to all of the fabulous Travel Tuesday with Teresa listeners who are joining us. I would like to say you are in for a big treat today. I know Teresa has told you to pack your bag and grab your passport. She's exactly right. We're headed today to South Africa, and I am pleased to be here as your guide. My name is Justin Barnett, and I'm the head of marketing and communications for South African Tourism's North America hub, and I'm based in New York City. I have been lucky enough to work with South Africa now for more than 15 years. And during the times that I have traveled back and forth to the beautiful Rainbow Nation, a few things really stand out for me that I want to start with today. And the first one is, in South Africa, the beautiful country of South Africa, you are going to find almost unparalleled a variety of experiences in close proximity. Yes, we're probably best known for the wildlife and the safari experiences, but South Africa is actually even more than that. We are talking about wine culture, which you see here. I'm in the Cape Winelands there. We are talking about history. We are talking about heritage. This year in South Africa, we're celebrating 30 years of freedom and democracy. So for a lot of travelers, that is brought back to the forefront of their attention, the recent history, the Mandela story, triumph over adversity, all of that kind of stuff. Here you see me at the capture site just outside of Durban. We are talking about vibrant new South Africa. You'll see that by the street art. You'll taste that in the food, in the wine, in the warm welcome that you receive. All of that and more is what we're going to talk about just a little today as we head on down to South Africa. Okay, fabulous. So as I said, it's a particularly exciting time to be considering visiting the Rainbow Nation, as all throughout this year, 2024, we've been celebrating 30 years of freedom and democracy. Back in 1994, we had our first democratic elections, and that's when Nelson Mandela was elected the first democratically elected and the first Black president of South Africa. So that celebration has been going on all year since April and will continue into next year. So you are going to find it a particularly inspired time to come on down. Of course, South Africa is at the bottom of the African continent, nestled between two oceans. We've got 60 million warm, welcoming, and diverse people. Love tourists. Can't wait to have you visit to share their secret inside tips with you, best places that you can go for a beer, to catch some sort of evening entertainment, to get the best food. They may even take a back of a menu and write their grandmother's recipe on the back of what you've had that night that you must try to recreate yourself when you get back home. We are diverse. As I said, we've got 11 different languages and many different cultural groups in South Africa, very proudly carrying on with their heritage. But English is the most widely spoken language. So when you visit, you're going to be able to move throughout the country with ease. All of the road signs, all of the signs in hotels, attractions, and all of that you'll find in English. And all of the guides and the hoteliers and the people that you'll interact with will all speak English as well. Now, South Africa is a big country. Some people think it might be small and we're going to just zip from one day to Cape Town, one day to Johannesburg, but it is actually 2 times the size of Texas. So we are talking about a large country. But there is a great internal infrastructure of not only roads, but also domestic flights. So it is going to be fairly easy for you to get around to all the major cities those that you would know like Johannesburg and Cape Town. Maybe you've heard of Durban over on the Indian Ocean, and we'll dive into a little bit more about those today as well. I want you to know that you will be in good company when you come to South Africa, because here out of North America, which is the portfolio that I work on, out of the USA and Canada, more and more travelers are returning to South Africa. In fact, as of September, so the first 9 months, 2024, we have seen almost a 7% growth from the USA against last year's arrival number. And that brings us back just under the 2019 pre-pandemic levels. And I have already seen a forecast for October, November, and December, and I'm confident that we will exceed those pre-pandemic numbers by the end of 2024. The USA is currently the #1 overseas market for travelers coming to the country, and our friends in the UK are a very close #2. So please, if you have time in the next couple of weeks to come down before the year end, or even in 2025, it's going to be a fabulous time for you to come. To our friends from the north, if anybody's listening from Canada, you are also showing a very, very robust recovery. Arrivals as of 2024 from Canada are up over 4%, and you're at almost 86% recovery of the pre-pandemic numbers. So you'll be among friends when you come that side. Just a little bit that you may find interesting about who's coming and some of the trends that we are seeing. So for a very long time, our biggest market were sort of baby boomers, right? So people who were 50 plus, 60 plus, had got their kids through college, had maybe paid off their house, were looking for their next big destination, and they were choosing South Africa. And we're excited that they are still choosing South Africa, but over the past 5-6 years, we have seen a shift in that even younger generations are getting very excited about coming down to South Africa. So we're seeing more people in their 30s, more people in their 40s, even youngsters in their 20s who are coming down to experience all that the country has to offer. And over the past 3 years, more than 50% of those people who came down are return visitors. So what I like about that for you and for Teresa as your go-to advisor and expert on putting together a fabulous South Africa itinerary, that means that now South Africa is not really just a one and done sort of destination. Again, for a long time, the wisdom was it was a quote bucket list trip. It was one of those things where you saved and saved and saved, and then you were going to go and have one epic adventure and think, well, great, now we've done that. So the good news is we still got epic adventures, but people are finding the country, its people, its experiences, the ease of getting there, the value for money, all compelling enough that they are coming back again and again, exploring different parts of the country, visiting places they went before, but seeing other things, finding restaurants or venues, hotels, and things that they like enough to come back to again in the same place. So lots of excitement there about coming back again and again. All kinds of travelers come to South Africa. So we talked a little bit about baby boomers and maybe the more adventurous youngsters. We are seeing a lot of energy and enthusiasm out of the LGBTQ travel community. So if that is you, know that on the continent, there is no other country that will give you a warmer welcome than South Africa. We were the first country in the world to enshrine the rights of LGBTQ citizens in our constitution, the 5th country in the world and the first outside of Europe to have same-sex marriage. So South Africa is known as the Rainbow Nation because of the beautiful melting pot of cultures, backgrounds, and identities of all our citizens, and that includes our LGBTQ South Africans. One other thing I'll just note there that is breaking news within the past few weeks, Cape Town has been awarded World Pride 2028. So World Pride 2028 will be held in Cape Town, South Africa. That will be the first time in the history of World Pride that it has been on the African continent. So we are quite excited about that. South Africa is doing a lot of business with cruises, right? So if you are a cruise enthusiast, wow, is there an opportunity for you to book a cruise that stops into a beautiful port like Durban, or an incredible port like Cape Town, get off the cruise, experience all the things that are on offer on land, back onto the cruise, and maybe around the continent up somewhere to the north or wherever the itinerary is leading you. But cruisers are really, really loving Cape Town, Durban, all of South Africa. Families and multi-gen. Like a lot of destinations during the pandemic, people wanted to travel with their crew, with their bubble of people. And that is still held true even as we are post the pandemic, that a lot of families, grandma and grandpa, younger kids are all getting together in like a little pack and they are traveling about. So we're seeing that in South Africa. Lots of energy, enthusiasm, and interest from Black travelers, right? Especially with the celebration of the 30 years of democracy. A lot of Black travel advisors that we work with have let us know that their clients see an interesting parallel between the civil rights struggle, the civil rights movement here in the United States, and South Africa's own end of apartheid story, right? That 30 years freedom and democracy, the long walk to freedom, and all of that. So there's a lot of renewed interest there. And then, of course, now that many people are lucky enough to have the freedom to work, quotes, from anywhere, we are seeing a big uptick in interest from digital nomads who want to come and spend some time on the beautiful beaches of Durban working, or they want to get that Cape Town breeze blowing in the face, or they think there's a good opportunity to get down to some really good business in Johannesburg. So they are coming as digital nomads and staying for a while. So lots of opportunities for you there. And getting to South Africa is now, well, just about the easiest it's ever been. Here out of the US, we have several direct routes. Our friends at United have service from Newark, right, in the New York tri-state area, from Newark, technically. They've got direct flights from Newark to Johannesburg, and they've got direct flights from Newark to Cape Town. And then our long-term partners at Delta, they now also have direct service from Atlanta to Johannesburg and from Atlanta to Cape Town. And then United was so excited about the interest that they had and the bookings that were coming through on that Newark flight, they added a third route that is going from Washington Dulles down to Cape Town, also on United. And then there are, of course, traditional fantastic options through the Middle East and also through Europe if you don't mind a connection. So lots of good ways to get there. And as I said, on the ground, to get from Cape Town to Johannesburg, or from Johannesburg over to Durban, or from Port Elizabeth up to the Kruger National Park area, we have many fantastic domestic internal airlines that can help you with that. So why is it a good time to go to South Africa now, beyond the things I've already mentioned? Well, for American passport holders, for Canadian passport holders, you do not need a visa to travel to South Africa for 90 days, 90, or 3 months, on leisure or business or less. So no visa required there. And there are no immunizations required to go to South Africa. Now, if your itinerary that you plan with Teresa includes some of our neighboring countries to the north, and if you go to those first, or if you split up your South Africa trip, you may need to have a yellow fever vaccination to enter South Africa. But you'd want to check that, of course. But if you are going directly from the US to South Africa, no immunizations are required. And I hinted at it before, but I'm going to underline it here. You are really going to get a lot of bang for your buck. The exchange rate is among the most favorable it has ever been right now when we're talking about the South African rand versus the US or Canadian dollar. Right now, against the US dollar, $1 is about 18 rands. So imagine if Teresa and I were visiting and we were in, let's say, Johannesburg, and we wanted to have a lovely dinner out after a day of sort of seeing new hotels or checking out some experiences that I was showing her for the first time. And we wanted to go to a lovely restaurant with white tablecloths, maybe 3 courses. We're going to have some of that amazing South African wine. We could probably get that meal for the two of us for about $30 US. And I'm talking to you today from New York City, and I don't know anywhere in New York City where I could get that kind of meal for $30. If you are also from this area and you're listening and you know a place where I can do that, hey, please let me know because I'll take you up on it. And then, as I mentioned just a little bit in my own experience, that variety of experiences that you are going to get when you come. Of course, the wildlife and safari, but also active adventure or history, the cultural roots, as we call it, seeing the sort of vibrant lifestyle that takes place in our cities, the music, the art, the fashion, the food, the wine, scenic outdoors. I've never been anywhere in the world that has as many beautiful vistas to end the day looking out on as South Africa. And then, of course, just by the nature of being cradled in the warm embrace of those two oceans, we have got miles and miles and miles of coastal beachland, if that is of interest to you. Well, I have mentioned a couple of times our wine, and there's a good reason why. South Africa is actually the only country in the world that knows the date that we first started making wine. That's because one of the Dutch colonizers captured that in their diary. And this year is an anniversary year for SA winemaking. We started in 1659. So this year, 2024, is 365 years of winemaking. Now, South Africa is often called a New World wine and lumped in with that, which is fabulous. But look, 365 years, it seems pretty old world to me. I mean, that's even before California was a state. So when you are down, if you are a wine enthusiast, you are going to have so many options of fabulous wines to taste. And if you are making a note, please make sure that you try our specific, unique South African varietal, which is called Pinotage. Pinotage. And I'll let you come back and tell me more about that. But it is a delicious red blend. All right. I want to bring in a friend to answer a few frequently asked questions that we often get from people who are considering traveling to South Africa. So let me turn it over to him for just a minute.
Hi, I'm Trevor Noah, and I'm South African. And because I'm South African, people from all over the world insist on asking me questions about South Africa. So I decided to make an ad to answer some of those fascinating questions. Like, how cold and snowy is your Christmas? Well, Tracy, unfortunately, we can't afford snow. Nah, I'm just playing. We're in the Southern Hemisphere, which means when it's freezing in Connecticut, it's fantastic in Cape Town. Klaus sent me this one. Can you play golf in South Africa? Well, Klaus, we actually have some of the finest golf courses in the world, but judging by your 37 handicap, can you play golf? How many stars are your 5-star hotels? Brian wants to know, can I meet the lions? Well, I don't know if you want to meet them, but you can see them on safari. And get this, it's not just lions, Brian. We've got everything. There's elephants, there's rhinos, there's giraffes, there's buffaloes, there's leopards. Come on, man, expand your horizons. Ostriches. Is South Africa fun? Is it fun? Are you even watching this commercial, Michelle? Paragliding, bungee jumping, surfing, river rafting, shark cage diving, hot air balloons, hiking, cycling, wine tasting, whatever this guy's doing. Does that not look like fun to you, Michelle? Does that not look like fun? So, now that I've shown you South Africa, my only question is, when are you coming to experience it for yourself?
I now want to dive into those key experience areas that we talked about. And I'm going to start with the one that you probably know us best for, right? And that is wildlife and safari. And there is a reason why that is probably called our marquee experience. When you go on a game drive, like you see here, the people in the back on the Jeep, right? That's called going on a game drive or taking a safari drive. When you go on one of those, I don't want to overstate it, but your senses are going to be absolutely engaged right from the first minute. We're talking about listening for the roar of a lion in the distance, spotting a rare leopard is nestled in a tree, or absolutely feeling the ground shake as a big herd of elephants crosses right in front of you. These are sort of experiences, these are feelings, these are sensory engagements that you're not going to get anywhere else in the world. And then when you get back to an incredible luxury lodge that is swaddling you in comfort, or you're sitting around the campfire at night sharing stories with the other travelers who happen to be at the lodge under the most dark and amazing sky with stars twinkling like you thought you could only see maybe in books or on television, you are going to think, this is a place where I have to return again and again. So let's take a look at a few scenes from wildlife and safari. Okay, so now that we've seen a little bit of that in motion, let's recap some of those top experiences that you may want to talk to Teresa about putting together for you. The first is that traditional Big Five safari, right? Getting into one of the lodges or possibly the national parks where you can get into a safari vehicle like this and you can get on the lookout for the lion, for the leopard, for the Cape buffalo, the elephant, or the rhinoceros. Those are our South African Big Five that everybody wants to make sure they capture. Then when you travel, we know especially since the pandemic, people want their investment not only of time for where they're going on vacation, but also the money that they are spending to really be something meaningful. And in South Africa, you can be assured that that investment of time and money is going to absolutely benefit not only the conservation of our wildlife, the protection of our natural areas, but the inclusion and upliftment of our local communities, right? Our tourism infrastructure is all built on those pillars of making sure that the industry provides inclusive growth and inclusion for those local communities. Luxury lodges, we talked a little bit about, you saw in the video a little bit of the inside of those luxury lodges. Wow, they are really, really fabulous. And one of the differences between staying at a private game reserve and a national park is that in the private game reserve, we can off-road, right? In a national park, we must stay on the roads that exist. But in a private game reserve, if we see a lion, like in this top left side, that is tracking perhaps prey, and it goes away from the road through the bushes, in the private game reserve, we are following it through the bushes to see where it goes. In the national park, we must just let him go and have his time, and we'll carry on to a different experience. But wow, safari and wildlife, I think especially in a sense of luxury with this, South Africa is doing it better than anybody. A couple of other experiences not to be missed in this area. The Addo Elephant Park down in the Eastern Cape, the incredible penguin colony down on Boulders Beach, just outside of Cape Town in the Western Cape, where you can see an entire huge colony of warm water penguins. You can see the rare wild dogs among the rich biodiversity of the Madikwe Game Reserve in the Northwest Province. And then one of the perfect places to experience those opulent game lodges is in the Sabi Sands area of Mpumalanga. All right, let's move on to our next category, which is active adventure. What you see here is a couple of very brave souls staring straight into the eyes of an enormous great white shark with only that cage between them and the shark. Now, we talked about safari as an absolute sensory overload experience. Now we're going to turn it up even further with these active adventures. Not only the shark cage diving, but bungee jumping from the spectacular Blokrans Bridge. That's the highest commercial bridge bungee in the world. Or perhaps a white-knuckled ride down our whitewater famous rivers. Skydiving, quad biking, windsurfing, ziplining through the treetops, international cycle races and sporting events, even a very subdued, against all these experiences, and quiet game of golf. In South Africa, there is no shortage of adventures in some of the world's most beautiful settings. Now let's take a look. Okay, great. So now that our hearts are absolutely pumping with those adventures, let's recap some of the top ones that you may want to jot down on your consideration list. So we saw the shark cage diving. I talked a little bit about that. I mentioned the bridge bungee that you're going to get. That is located along the beautiful garden route, which stretches right along the southern coast of the country, starting in Cape Town and traveling across over to Port Elizabeth, now known as Kruger. So you can find that along the garden route. This is an incredible example of zip lining here near a waterfall, and then hiking. If you have got some hiking boots that are broken in and ready for another adventure, South Africa can really deliver on that. This is the Drakensberg Mountains that you see here, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There is also our new Seven Wonder of Nature Table Mountain in Cape Town, which has some hiking options as well. You can also abseil off of Table Mountain. So lots of stuff happening that side. Hot air balloon safaris in the Northwest Province. I mentioned a little bit about those rapids. You've got the Orange River near the Okrabi Falls in the Northern Cape. The zip lining through the treetops, which I like to think when I do that, I feel like Tarzan. That is in the Tsitsikamma area in the Eastern Cape. And then one of the most beautiful experiences, a sunset horseback ride along the exquisite beaches of Noordhoek, just outside of Cape Town. Those are just a few of the adventure experiences you may want to consider when you visit South Africa. All right, now let's get in touch with our cultural roots. You know, South Africa is in many ways the place where the human story started. So in South Africa, we find the cradle of humankind. We can find ancient Africa preserved on rock faces in caves and historical sites. Or, as I've mentioned a few times, we can follow the inspiring footsteps of Nelson Mandela all the way to his humbling prison cell on Robben Island. Then you can be welcomed by our new, thriving, current South Africa of today. What is South Africa like in 2025? You can dive into our way of life and celebrate our rich modern culture. You can visit buzzing urban markets and art galleries, really find some interesting and exciting music at our jazz bars, and get in touch with everyday locals in our township communities. Our South African story is told in so many different historical sites and museums around the country, and it's expressed in our rich cultural traditions that show up in our food, our music, and that vibrant urban culture. We like to say that to be in South Africa is to be welcomed home, not as a traveler, but as a friend. Now let's see exactly why. Okay, yes, you see, we've got that incredible combination of modern, of ancient, and everything in between that you're going to find there are people warm and welcoming, ready to share with you things about their culture, their family, their neighborhood. Yeah, it's going to be just, you never going to forget your first trip to South Africa. I mentioned the cradle of humankind. If we believe that there is a such thing as the Garden of Eden, it very likely was here, just 45 minutes outside Johannesburg in the cradle of humankind. Some great experiences that Teresa can put together for you there, including visiting Maropang that you see here, which is a museum, an interactive museum. You can have a phone call with a dodo bird to talk about extinction. You can trace the moment where our ancestors began walking on two legs instead of four. It is absolutely fascinating. You can see an exhibit about how conserving water for the future is imperative to our continued inhabitation of the planet. So, a good place to start there in the cradle of humankind. Then, the Mandela footsteps that you saw throughout. There are 27 different Mandela experiences throughout the country. So, Robben Island, as we've mentioned, that's sort of like South Africa's Alcatraz, right? That it's a prison where the men were kept during apartheid, including Mr. Mandela, other political prisoners. He spent 18 of his 27 years in prison there. And one of the things that is absolutely incredible about a Robben Island tour is that those tours of the prison are all still led by people who were imprisoned there. So you are going to have a first person experience as you walk those halls of history with somebody who lived through that experience and believes that the memory, the education about history is so important that they return to that place of pain for them to share those stories to make sure that's not forgotten. So that is an absolute must do when you travel. Some of that ancient rock art and cave paintings that we are talking about there in the lower left. And then, of course, really, if you want to dive into some of the tradition and the culture and the history, there are some fantastic cultural village experiences that you can have also. Let's see if there are any other things on my list I want to share with you. Oh, yeah. In the Soweto Township, just outside of Johannesburg, you can visit Vilakazi Street, which we call the world's most famous street because it is the only place in the world where not one, but two Nobel Peace Prize winners have lived on the same street. And that's, of course, Mr. Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. It's in Soweto. You can see what life is like on a typical South African farm in the Free State. You can visit the former home of Mahatma Gandhi just outside of Durban. You may not know that Gandhi lived for a significant time in South Africa, and that is partially where he began to develop his nonviolent approach to resistance. So you can learn more about that there outside of Durban. Also, in that area of KwaZulu-Natal, you can go to the monument of Shaka Zulu, the king of the Zulus there in KwaZulu-Natal. And then one of those cultural villages we were talking about is just a short drive from Johannesburg. It is called the Lesedi Cultural Village in the Gauteng province. And there you can experience that African spirit of Ubuntu and explore the cultures of the Ndebele, the Xhosa, the Pedi, the Bosotho, and the Zulus. All right, now let's get outdoors. It is chilly, chilly, chilly here in New York this week, and I am longing for the beauty and the warmth that I can feel emanating out of this picture. As I said before, South Africa is a place where I just cannot think of anywhere else in the world that has so much breathtaking nature stretching out practically in every direction. It feels like the horizons just go on forever. Whether we're talking about the really mind-blowing peaks of the Drakensberg Mountains to our flat-topped world wonder Table Mountain, the amazing Blythe River Canyon, or going to see a place where millions of daisies burst to life in the desert. We're talking about strolling along beaches, hiking ancient hills and forests older than time, waking up to views of the bush and savanna that make time feel like they stop. No matter where you're going to stay in South Africa, every day is going to give you a perfect horizon to look out on. Now let's see a little bit about that. Okay, now that we have seen some of that in motion, let's grab a couple of notes about specific scenic outdoor experiences you don't want to miss. So I'm going to pull us back to start with the winelands, right? That is the incredible, we were talking about 365 years of winemaking. The winelands area primarily is located outside of Cape Town. We've got Franschhoek, Stellenbosch, and Parel among the most popular visited wine areas. Those can be a day trip from Cape Town, 35, 45 minutes, depending on specifically where you land, and then back to the city center to overnight if you want. Or you can stay out in the winelands at some of the incredible boutique hotels or B&Bs that Teresa can help you choose. And then there is a very unique and fabulous experience in Franschhoek that is called the Franschhoek Wine Tram. And that lets you book 3, 4, 5 different winery experiences one day, and you zip between them using this old school wine tram. So of course you don't have to worry about driving, and you don't have to worry about finding your tour operator or guide. You just pop onto the wine tram, move from vineyard to vineyard, winery to winery. Table Mountain, which you've heard a few times, you can see in the back here on the left. Oh, it is the most majestic. When you get to the top there, like we said, you can hike it, but you can also, if you're like me and your hiking is not really your forte, there is a beautiful cable car that takes you right to the top, and it rotates while you are traveling so you can see all the 360 views below. Standing on top of Table Mountain for the first time reminded me of in school when we used to read about the Greeks on Mount Olympus and how that's where all the gods gathered. It really feels like you are high up in the sky, and nothing could be more beautiful or powerful. So definitely do not miss Table Mountain. Here also on the left is Blythe River Canyon. That is the world's largest green canyon, as you can see, and it's the third largest canyon overall in the world. I bet you already know the first. It's right here at home for most of you, the Grand Canyon. And then, of course, South Africa's got some incredible luxury rail experiences. If you would like to see the beautiful scenery as you chug by on the train, that we have the Rovos rail and also the Blue Train, which are giving you those sort of throwback experiences like you may have seen in the movies about the Orient Express. So something in that style. We talked about that garden route. Do not miss that, especially if you are very keen to self-drive. That can be the most amazing self-drive. In the Mpumalanga area, just near this Blythe River Canyon, there are the 240 million year old Sudwala Caves, if you are that so inclined. And then where I was talking about the daisies bursting to life each spring, that's in the Northern Cape, and that's called Namakwaland Flower Route. Yeah, those are the scenic outdoor experiences you may want to look into. Okay, we are trucking right along here, ticking off all of our wish list itinerary items. And so now, as promised, I'm going to take you to the beach. You are going to feel those waves lifting your soul all along the sun-soaked coast, whether it is on the Atlantic Ocean side or the Indian Ocean side. More than 2,700 kilometers of beachfront, where blue flag beaches may actually lure you into staying out all day, and you can also enjoy the freshest flavors of the sea piled high onto your plate at our beachside restaurants. These sun-soaked coasts are ready year-round to share their secrets, adventures, and lazy days with you. Now let's take a look. Ooh, talk about sun and fun. That looks like exactly where I want to be today. Yes, we talked about the two oceans. That's the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean that come together. Now, the Indian Ocean side, over where Durban is, that is the warmer ocean. So if you really want to get in the water and splash around, swim, all that sort of stuff, that's the side for you. The Atlantic Ocean side, really, even at the height of winter, is pretty chilly. Whale watching. So that is a very popular experience, especially down around Hermanus, that you'll want to have a look at. That's the southern right and the humpback whales migrating along that Cape South coast. Similarly, there's a sardine run, millions of sardines swimming up the KwaZulu-Natal coast, creating absolute frenzy like no other underwater. You know, this is a crossover with adventure for the shark cage diving there. If you do not want to get into the water with the sharks, you can learn about them at the Two Oceans Aquarium in Cape Town, surrounding yourself with unique underwater fauna and flora of both the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. That's fantastic for kids as well. We talked a little bit about Boulders Beach and our penguins in our wildlife section, but here they are again as they cross over to beach as well. And of course, you can see 5 different ecosystems in one day at the Isimangaliso Wetland Park in KwaZulu-Natal. And I would have to mention surfing. There is world-class surfing and more than 50 blue flag beaches between Durban and Cape Town and everywhere along the coast there. Incredible, incredible surfing in places like Jeffreys Bay. So definitely check that out if you are surfers. Okay, now we are moving into the city. So our city lives, we are bursting with color and life. And I want you, when you visit, to let our South African locals be your guide to all the hot spots, nightclubs, taste experiences, all those best kept secrets that they can share about the cities they love. Whether you want to be pampered at some of the best hotels, go to a trendy weekend market, close out the evening at a beautiful rooftop bar, or wake your senses up with the magical smell of fresh coffee, South African vacations are all about spoiling your senses. Now, let us take you first to the mother city of Cape Town. Now, let's go to the city of gold, Johannesburg. All right, those are just two of our best known and most loved cities. But what you're going to find that they have in common, as well as some of our other cities like Durban, Port Elizabeth or Kruger, Pretoria, Bloemfontein, is incredible markets, right? Where you are going to be able to find local vendors, local fruits and veg, food and drink to try, and of course, mix and mingle not only with travelers, but with locals who are there as well. South Africa's cities also have incredible art galleries and museums. We've talked a little bit about those that focus on history and culture, but there are so many that focus on art and fashion, music. One not to miss in Cape Town is called the Zeitz, Zeitz Mocha, and it is the largest on the continent museum of contemporary African art. A truly incredible museum on par with the likes of the MoMA or the Louvre. So you definitely, if you are an art lover, you want to make sure not to miss that. Of course, we talked about live music, nightlife, and dining, those food experiences, and township community tours. Arts on Main in Johannesburg is a great strip to walk for the latest in African art and handmade crafts. Nelson Mandela Square in Sandton, outside of Johannesburg, is a great place for shopping. You can catch a theater show at the Market Theater in Newtown. Of course, we have the annual Cape Town International Jazz Festival, where international and African music lovers mix. And then a beautiful way to see Soweto, the township that we were talking about earlier, is with a urban cycling tour on that side. So let's talk just another minute about Johannesburg and Soweto. Johannesburg is known as the City of Gold That is really the urban heart of South Africa, as well as the financial capital of the country. Within it, you're going to find Soweto, the southwest township, where hundreds of thousands of Black South Africans famously protested apartheid in 1976. Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Tutu, that's where I was mentioning before, they lived on Vilakazi Street. And some of the current residents there are some of the best musicians, painters, and poets in the country. Just a little 15-second dip on Cape Town. It's really the cosmopolitan hub of the Western Cape, boasting those world-class shopping, museum, hotel, and restaurant experiences, not to mention this amazing natural setting. That's Table Mountain you see in the middle there, right? Like you can see them all across the city. Where else can you frolic with those penguins on the beach by day and get a world-class restaurant dinner that evening? That's Cape Town. Just a moment on one of my favorite places, Durban, which they say is the warmest place to be. Zulu, Indian, and British cultures really combine in Durban. It is a melting pot city in the capital in KwaZulu-Natal. It is a metropolis that is known for its 3-mile stretch of sand known as the Golden Mile. You can set down your umbrella there and just really lose track of time. We say in Durban that it is sunny at least 320 days per year. So those beaches with public amenities are beckoning for you to come and just while away the hours there in Durban. As we close out our time together today, I hope that you have seen that really beyond the specific experiences, whether they're wildlife and safari or those active adventures, scenic outdoors, the city lifestyle, the culture, that it's our people who are at the center of those experiences and are going to very, very likely be the most memorable part of your visit. The game rangers and outdoor adventure guides, chefs and winemakers, city guides, it's really their warmth and friendliness, their sense of humor, and their invaluable knowledge in their field that is going to bring these experiences to life. So let's just see one more with them. All right. Well, of course, if you want to explore putting together your own trip itinerary, you already are connected with a fabulous resource, and that is Teresa. So be sure to reach out to her to talk more about that. If you want to do some more research on your own, you can check out our website at southafrica.net or check us out on social media on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Pinterest. All those are Visit South Africa. It's been fabulous to be here with you today. So I'm going to welcome Teresa back into the conversation. Hi.
Hi, Justin. Thank you so much. You had a great job to do, and you did it very well. You know, South Africa is a one-country destination. There's so much to do in South Africa. As you can see, the quintessential itinerary for first-time goers would be visiting Cape Town and the surrounding areas like the winelands, like Stellenbosch. I love Stellenbosch. I had no idea that the wines were so historical. 360, what did you say, 365 years ago?
Yes, that's right.
I had no idea. So combine Cape Town with the winelands and then go north to Johannesburg and Kruger National Park. And then you could maybe dip your toes into see Victoria Falls, Vic Falls, we call it. But I mean, there's just so much to see and not enough time and not enough money to do it all in. So if you're interested in having me create an itinerary, just reach out to me. I'm Teresa from Honeymoon Islands. And if you can dream it, we will create it. Bye. Bye, Justin.
Thanks so much, everybody. See you in South Africa.
Stay tuned for more episodes that will unveil new horizons and immerse you in the beauty of global discovery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, if you can dream it, we will create it.